Hey, remember the good old days? Yeah, the days that were so good that people want to go back to those days. Remember how the 90s were the best times? Maybe the 70s. Or maybe the 50s for you. Or maybe the 20s. Okay, maybe not the 20s. The belief that a society or a country is in a constant state of decline is called Declinism. Believe it or not, a lot of people think that the world is actually getting much worse to live in, even though it is actually opposite from the truth. Now, before I continue with the video, I would just like to remind you that you can subscribe to this channel. That's it, nothing much. And I will try to create more value for you. Now, let's move on with Declinism. First of all, let's talk about the economy. People think that the state of the economy and the living conditions are getting worse and worse by the day. But that is simply not the case, and I'm going to say why right now. The economy throughout the entire world has been steadily rising with a few mishaps over the years, and it is getting even better and better. People all over the world now have more opportunities to earn for themselves than ever before. Even the people living in the developing countries have the chance to earn more money from people all over the world through a lot of ways. The standard of living has been rising constantly over the years. There has been some hatred towards the millennial generation for their work ethic. But the overall employment rate for the people in that age group of 18 to 30 has also risen a lot in the recent years. Now I'd like to talk about discrimination. We see it almost every day in the news that the minorities are oppressed. Yes, there is truth to the fact that minorities in almost everywhere around the world are discriminated against. But the question is it really worse than ever? Does that mean that minorities were treated very well in the past? You already know the answer? Absolutely not. It was much worse back in the day. I could elaborate more on that about how minorities used to be discriminated against, but this channel is not really about discussing history, so I'm not going to do that. For the context of this cognitive bias, you need to realize that the reason it might look bad is because minorities have a voice now. They have different ways of coming into the spotlight. 50 years before today, the oppressed people had no way of fighting back, and the majority did not even know about their oppression. And now I'd like to talk about why do people actually think that the past was so great. The first reason obviously is nostalgia. Nostalgia for you as a person. Now, I don't know who you are as a person, but one thing I can say is that if you look back to the past, your view of the world is likely going to be positive. That is because in the past you are younger, you are more energetic, you had less problems and less responsibilities. That is why generally most people have the tendency to look at the past in a better way than it actually was. Now obviously that is not true all the time. You might have had a miserable childhood and now you are doing great in life. And if that is the case, I am really happy for you. Another factor behind declinism has to be the news. Sensationalism is seen as the biggest way of getting more attention from people. And if you get a lot of attention, you are considered successful. The negative news are all over the news space and you simply cannot escape it. The 24/7 news channels strive on showing the bad and the ugly of the world. They do it in the hopes of getting more views and becoming more successful than other news channels. But the problem is, everyone is actually doing that, and as a result, the consumers of the news channels or the newspapers or whatever the news source is are likely to think that the world is actually getting worse and worse by the day. Once again, it is not like nothing bad are happening around the world. It just seems worse because we get to know about every single negative news throughout the traditional and social media. And there are other biases that come into play to amplify the effect of declinism. First of all, you have negativity bias. I'm going to make an entire video on negativity bias. But for the sake of this video, negativity bias would mean that you can have a lot of positive news around you and one or two negative news. What your brain is likely to do is to focus on the negative news more than the positive news. Another thing you can have is confirmation bias. The thing with confirmation bias is that if you have a preconceived notion that the economy is getting worse and worse by the day, you are going to focus on the news that is going to confirm your bias and not the facts that contradict with you. Again, I will provide the link to that video in the description soon. But for now, you need to know that confirmation bias and negativity bias are going to amplify the effect of declinism bias. Now, the obligatory part would be how to beat this bias. Again, I might sound like a broken record here, but the first way to beat a bias is actually having the knowledge that this bias exists. And you need to know about why and how this bias is likely to have an effect on you. That's it. If you know that, you are more than halfway to defeating the bias. And you also need to be knowledgeable about the world around you and the specifics of almost everything. That way you can get rid of the declinism bias. And that was it for the topic of declinism bias. Thank you all for watching. Please share this video with anyone that might find valuable information here. And if you learned something new, don't forget to like this video. And of course, subscribe to this channel so you can get future notifications whenever I upload. And you can comment below on what topic I should make a video about next. And for the bonus part, I would like to say that the Spanish word for what is que. QUE for Spanish would be pronounced as que. That was the official end of this video. Thank you all for watching. And as always, I hope you learned something new today.